Looks like the cyberpunk dystopia is finally here. Companies and governments are keeping track of your every move. People don't talk to each other anymore, and everyone is more miserable than ever. The only thing that gets you up in the morning is the fact that you need to make money to survive, so you work a dull and uninteresting job just to give your life purpose. Except that might not be the case anymore. Advanced AI is finally here, and it's going to take the working world by storm. AI algorithms like ChatGPT have proven to be very capable with various tasks, where some organizations are already using it to write code, create business emails, and to even practice law. Not even creative fields are safe, as some have used the tech to write their own novels, and other AI algorithms like DALL-E and Midjourney can create a wide assortment of art pieces that is good enough for most people's needs. Will people stop hiring artists? Are we destined to have all our entertainment created by machines, so we'll be forced to work in soulless jobs forever? Well, let's not get hasty here. This isn't the first time humanity faced a crisis like this. Since the Industrial Revolution, technology has been replacing people and labor, but we've always created new lines of work alongside them. I'm currently working with different AI technologies, and from what I've seen, we still have a long way to go before an AI can consistently outperform a human on both professional and creative tasks. But technology is constantly improving, and I believe we'll get very close within the next few years. Keep in mind that when I talk about artificial intelligence, they're not intelligent in a way we describe humans. They're more like complex algorithms that could generate an intelligent response, but they don't have any concept of what they're actually doing. They still rely on human interaction to tell them what to do. For the time being, humans will need to work alongside AI to make sure the job gets done properly. So it's best to consider AI as yet another tool at our disposal, one that will make our lives significantly easier. Now, it's obvious to see the types of jobs that AI can help with, mainly those dealing with routine tasks. But how can it help people in creative fields? It requires you to, well, be creative. How would a machine that scans through a bunch of different files get creative? For the time being, it can't, unless the user is very specific when it comes to their prompts. So you need to have in-depth knowledge on art to get the best results from these algorithms. Because of this, artists can make great use of these tools, even if they only use it partially. A good use case for this would be an industry that's currently struggling right now: animation. Within the last few years, we've seen many streaming services cut back on animated content, downsizing or closing their animation studios, and canceling animated shows left and right, even going as far as pulling them from their services. Now, treating animated content poorly has been a trend for decades, but why is that? It's actually quite simple. It's too expensive. Animated content takes a long time to produce, usually taking between 6 months to a year to create one episode. You need to hire a ton of highly skilled animators to storyboard, draw keyframes, and to animate every scene. If you don't want the animation to look terrible, you either need to pay a ton of money for top quality animators, or ship the animation overseas, where animators are paid less than a fry cook at McDonald's. Depending on the quality of animation, and depending if you have major celebrities as part of the voice cast, the cost of a single 30-minute episode can range between $300,000 to $3 million, which doesn't sound like much seeing how much streaming services are paying for content nowadays, but many of these shows don't have a huge return on investment. Unfortunately, most people think animated shows are for kids and won't give them the time of day. It doesn't help that many adult animated shows, at least in the West, rely on immature jokes to retain an audience, so there hasn't been many successes with the older crowd. Most animated shows rely on merchandising to be profitable, so if it's not a major hit right out the door, it will most likely be cancelled within a few seasons. There's always independent animated shows, but since they're working on a budget, it takes a very long time for these shows to come out. Most of these independent shows rely on funding from Patreon, or again, from merchandising. So go buy that Veronica Mayday pinup poster like I know you want to, safety guy. I know it's obvious because I'm using an animated character, well, somewhat animated, but I'm a huge fan of animated shows. We've seen a ton of great shows released within the last decade that were killed off too soon, and it's sad to see animation in its current state. However, with technology, we now have a way to make animation more affordable, to the point where it can cost less than live action shows. You can cut back on the number of animators you need to hire, and you don't need to exploit developing countries while doing it. You'd still have animators creating storyboards and drawing keyframes, but AI could help in speeding up the animation process. By scanning 2 keyframes, the AI can draw all the mid-frames needed to make smooth animations between them. It can take hours for an animator to do the same task, where all they're doing is drawing the same thing over and over again with slight differences. With AI, you could generate those same images in a matter of seconds, only needing to make adjustments if needed. You It could also be used to animate mouths, where it can scan the audio source and draw the proper mouth movements for every language the show is released in. You could also use AI to auto-generate backgrounds and scenery. It doesn't need to do it fully, but it could be used to duplicate some of the more static things to draw, like mountains, grass, and other scenery. This wouldn't be the first time the animation industry used tech to make their jobs easier. Instead of drawing every frame using pencil and paper, we use computers, which can help in fixing mistakes rather than crumbling up the drawing and starting over. We use computers to automatically color images instead of painting them manually on cells, which Disney was the first to get rid of by using Xerox technology in the 60s. Also with computers, we can now make rigs for our characters, which can then be reused for various scenes. It's the reason why CGI became the dominant field of animation, because it's both cheaper and easier to animate. The animation industry has been using technology to make their lives easier for decades, and AI will only continue this trend. Sure, animated shows and movies will need less animators to make, but instead of losing tons of jobs, it could lead to studios making more animated shows. The cost of animated content will go down significantly, and studios could be more open to experimenting with new ideas. It could also give indie projects a massive boost, where a single animator can significantly increase their productivity with these tools. It can finally allow independent studios to compete with the big players, which in turn will allow even more animated content to flourish. You want to know what else we need more of? Video games, because my god have game releases dropped over the years. Sure, we still have the slew of indie games coming out, but in the AAA space, the number of games have gone down to a trickle. It isn't surprising why, as games are taking longer to make. The scope of AAA games have gotten so large and so complex that it takes a ton of people to get them off the ground. What used to take 6 to 12 months to make on average with only a few developers, now takes at least 5 years with hundreds of developers. Most AAA games that start development today will most likely not come out until the PlayStation 6 launches. During that time, we'll have numerous developers working overtime for years on end in the hopes that they'll launch by the next holiday season, only for some other game to change everything, causing them to rework the game to fit new trends. It's gotten so bad that most developers don't want to bother anymore, and are instead focusing on smaller free-to-play games that will make them more money in the long run, even if they still crunch their developers. Because AAA gaming has gotten so expensive, most publishers aren't willing to try anything new. Some of the biggest games today are games or franchises that were released more than a decade ago. We want to see new things, we want gaming to innovate with new ideas, and we also don't want to rely on free-to-play mechanics to make that happen. Fortunately, we have technology that can make this easier for us. Guess what it is? That's right, AI! Current AI technologies would be huge for gaming. Not only could it help with game development, but it could expand gaming in ways we never thought possible. In fact, we're already using AI to help with game development. Software such as SpeedTree has helped developers to quickly create assets such as trees and other flora for over a decade. Before, each of those things would need to be created by hand, which took a lot of time away from artists who could be working on more interesting assets. With these AI tools, we can use them to create more intricate landscapes like mountains, cities, or even entire planets. Plus, you have to think about what it can do for in-game AI. For decades, game AI has stagnated to only follow simple commands. With more intricate AI, we can have enemies that control like humans. We can even have them act like humans. Thanks to Chat AI, we can have non-playable characters with their own personalities. They can interact with players in an infinite amount of ways, which can help in making games more immersive. You can even have these AIs play as the villains who can constantly change the game based on their interactions, which can help in creating games that never have to end. Now I know I've been gushing about AI throughout this video, and many of you probably think I'm some dumb tech bro who has no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to art. That might be true, but you have to admit that the potential for AI is huge when it comes to entertainment. It might still be primitive, but within the next few years, we'll start seeing a ton of content produced with AI. This isn't your standard fad. Nearly every tech company is implementing AI technologies within their software, which will be used by both amateurs and professionals. It won't be long until even the average person will be able to use this technology easily. However, there are tons of people out there who aren't happy with the proliferation of AI. They have numerous ethical concerns about how these technologies will be used, and to an extent, we do need to be cautious. But there's one complaint I see time and time again that I feel like is overblown: how AI is stealing other people's work. As part of the learning process, these algorithms are fed tons of data from across the internet, which they then use to learn all the skills they know. Because these algorithms are learning off of other people's work, Many think that the AIs are only copying what other people did, and they aren't actually creating anything original. It sounds plausible, but if you think about it, don't humans also do this? People don't live in a vacuum. Most people's art is influenced by others in one way or another. When starting out, many fledgling artists would trace over drawings, make fan art, or replicate a style from their favorite cartoon or anime. Most art schools have students copy designs made by other artists to get a good grade. Eventually, as they progress as an artist, they'll develop their own style, but most likely it'll share many similarities with other artists. It's the same concept when it comes to AI. They're learning from billions of images to create these drawings where they select which style of drawings works best for each scenario. It might not be completely original, but what art is? If you're concerned about the AI copying from other artists, you can control its point of reference by limiting which images it can learn from. It might be beneficial to have the AI learn from a specific subset of your own work, so it can replicate the drawings that fit best with your style. Again, AI is only a tool, and it's only as good as the person who uses it. And here lies the problem. It all depends on the person using it. Although we like to think most people will use this for good, there are a few who are currently abusing this technology. We already have people passing AI art as their own in art contests, and some are even selling creative works that were completely generated by AI. Currently under the law, these works can't be copyrighted since, technically, people had no hand in making these works. But I don't know for how long these laws would last. Seeing how most people in our government don't know how computers work.
How do you determine what age they are then?
We have also developed some tools where we look at their public profile to go through the videos that they post to see whether...
Well, that's creepy.
It's gonna take a while for the law to start regulating how these AIs will be used. In the meantime, it's up to us to figure this out. If your work was made with AI, state that it was, or have these sites add a watermark notifying it was AI generated. If you see people lying, call them out. We already have people calling each other out whenever someone claims art they didn't make as their own. It shouldn't be any different with AI art. However, there are also people who are using this tech for more sinister actions. Perhaps the darkest use of this technology is with deepfakes, or using AI to create realistic videos of things that never happened. We've already seen people creating videos of Biden trying to start a nuclear war that fooled some people, but for the most part, all we're seeing is a ton of videos of the presidents arguing over Nintendo consoles. Sure, some people will be fooled, but it's only a matter of time until people catch on to these scams, just like all the other online scams of the past. It's all a matter of educating the population. Get the word out there on social media and create YouTube videos talking about the subject. Like this one! Eventually people will wise up and not fall for this. Hopefully. And then we get to the more serious discussion. The fear that people will lose their jobs. There's no point in competing with a machine that can do the same work you can within seconds and isn't even paid to do it. Companies would jump at the opportunity to cut costs. I'll be honest here, it's a legitimate concern. I know many of you are going to be pissed at me for actually speaking positively about AI, so here's a consolation prize for you. My job is at risk too! We have tools like GitHub Copilot that can write a ton of code within seconds. Granted, it's wrong most of the time, but eventually it'll get smart enough to build entire services based on a few prompts. So where does that leave people like me? Well, you need to understand what it means to be a software engineer. Many people think we do nothing but write code all day.
It's fiction.
We don't get paid six figures to write code. We get paid those high salaries because we can solve complex problems. That requires us to talk in depth with clients, understanding exactly what they want, and coming up with a plan to build the feature. And if I can have an AI write out hundreds of string updates, or create a CSS file that formats everything perfectly, I would. It makes my job easier and I can focus my attention on other things. In STEM, you're expected to adapt and learn new things over your career. Much of the tech I've worked with a few years ago is obsolete now, so you always need to learn new tech stacks and keep your coding skills up to date. In business, efficiency is the name of the game, and even if it isn't perfect, AI technologies will help us complete tasks quicker so we can accomplish more things. This is not only true for software engineering, but it's true in all fields. Technology will help us take care of the menial work so we can then focus on the bigger picture, like designing and creating. Some fear that AI will take away jobs from people, but it can also open new opportunities as well. Since we can create art and entertainment much quicker and cheaper than before, it would allow us to create more of it. Animators and developers who would have been stuck drawing mid-frames or fixing bugs could focus their energy on creating new shows or making their own projects. It can open up a new renaissance for entertainment, which allows a bunch of people who have been stuck in menial jobs to branch out and be creative themselves. Even after saying all this, I'm sure many of you are rolling your eyes, fearing the worst. Keep in mind that these algorithms still need a prompt to create content, which is still controlled by humans. I don't think we'll ever reach a point where computers will create all art and entertainment for us. As long as humans are creative, we're going to make our own art. Art is still the best way for humans to express themselves, and many people can see the soul behind each piece. That soul would be the reason why traditional art will never die completely. People appreciate other people's creativity, and will support that creativity whenever they can. Just look at how popular craft stores like Etsy became. Plus, AI algorithms still have trouble drawing feet, so the smut community will live on! Joking aside, my suggestion for those who are fearful of the future is to learn how to adapt. The AI future is here whether you like it or not, and it's a pointless endeavor to fight against it. Instead, I recommend embracing AI in your own work. Find ways on how you can use this technology to make yourself more efficient. Regardless, AI will open a lot of opportunities for humanity. It's all a matter of figuring out the best use for it.